Kansai International Airport in Osaka says it hasn't lost a single piece of luggage in over 30 years. Dubai International Airport processes over 1,000 flights daily. That's one takeoff or landing every 86 seconds. And Singapore's Changi Airport features a 40-meter indoor waterfall, the world's tallest. From record-breaking passenger volumes to cutting-edge innovations, airports are more than just travel hubs. They're economic heavyweights. So what makes some airports stand out as global leaders? And how can Taiwan's airports emulate them? I'm Devi Gopalan, and you're watching Connected on TaiwanPlus. To learn more about what defines global aviation hubs and how they can drive a country's growth, we are joined from Australia by Richard Cheng-Lung. He's the Associate Professor and Director of Research at the School of Aviation of the University of New South Wales, Sydney. Great to have you on the program, Richard.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
I'm going to start with Taipei and Taiwan in particular. You've worked with Taipei's Songshan Airport. Could you first give us some information on, or for our viewers, some context on what Songshan Airport is and what role it plays and how it contributes to Taiwan's airport and aviation industry?
Yes, the role of Songshan Airport has evolved over the years, especially the past 15 years. So before 2005, its role was mainly domestic connections between airports with specific flights to certain destinations. But after the direct flights between Taiwan and mainland China, it started playing a role as a regional airport that serves major capital cities in especially Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia. So its role has evolved over the years, and I'm pretty happy to see it's growing as a major airport, especially in Asia.
For many in Taipei, what's great about Songshan is that it's close to the city and very accessible.
Yes.
Somewhat like Singapore's Changi Airport, which sets the gold standard. Every single ranking has Singapore's Changi Airport right at the top. So what makes Singapore's Changi Airport such a hub and such a magnet for businesses and tourism, aside from proximity to the city?
Yeah, exactly. To become a hub airport, you do need to have a few major important conditions. So the first one is a geographic location. So Singapore does have a pretty good geographic location in that area. The second one is you need to have a very strong local airline. With the investment of Singaporean government, Singapore Airlines has grown to become a major player in the aviation industry. So that is important. And also the third component is the catchment area population. You do need to have people to come in and out and also connecting through the hub airport in order to become very successful.
Right. And looking at the airport business, kind of putting the microscope to that, you've worked with Sydney's airport, highlighting retail revenue. How important is non-aviation connected businesses to the survival or for an airport to thrive as an aviation hub?
Yes, aeronautical revenues are those revenue earned by an airport with aeronautical activities, so mostly about aircraft landing, taking off, the fees they charge for using airport facilities, for example, air bridges and also ground equipment, for example. So for most airports, those incomes are not enough to cover the cost, especially capital investment cost. So over time, airports are trying to grow non-aeronautical related revenues, especially from property development, retail revenue, and also, for example, the parking. Parking can be a very major income for some airports. So this revenue become a very important source to sustain an airport business in order to grow as a whole.
And given that Taiwan is set to open its Terminal 3 very soon, how much is Taiwan's Taoyuan Airport looking at that non-aeronautical revenue stream to sustain not only the airport industry or airport business, but also the businesses around it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Taoyuan Airport has done quite a fair bit of preparation, especially for the two major concessionaires running retail businesses over there. So typically for the airport of about Taoyuan's size, and also, for example, Singapore, the non-aeronautical revenue should have a percentage about 30%, even to 40%. So if you have that revenue compared with the aeronautical revenue, then that will make the whole business model more sustainable and more robust to resist economic shocks in the future.
Right, you're based in Australia. The last time Australia and an Australian airport featured in the top 10, according to Skytrax, of best airport or best service was way back in 2006. Why is that?
Airports, there are different types of airports. And for most airports, for example, Sydney Airport in Australia, we are very much at the edge of the world. So people fly here typically connecting to domestic or just going home. So unlike, for example, Hong Kong Airport or Singapore Airport, people go through the airport and then may go to somewhere else. So in terms of airport, in terms of scale, Australian airports tend to be medium-sized with enough population and also with enough traffic. Also for Sydney Airport, they have been focusing on customer experience, retail experience, and also overall more as a destination for travelers as well. And that's something new for modern airports, because you don't want passengers or customers to come here only as a passenger. You want them to come here as a customer, and they can experience retail, they can experience the airport itself, even the airport itself as a destination.
The airport experience, and Australia, I believe, is set to invest billions into its airport infrastructure. Can you tell us where that money is expected to go and what they're hoping to achieve with that?
Yes, so there are two broader aspects of investment in airport infrastructure in Australia. One is upgrading regional airports, because the vast territory we have in Australia. Many regional airports have a smaller population, but the infrastructure has been lacking in terms of investment, so need a very much improvement to improve the service quality. Another aspect of investment is on major locations, especially major airports. So, for example, in Sydney Metropolitan, the government has been building a second airport in Western Sydney to support the growth of growing demand of aviation, and also because the current Sydney airport is very limited by the space, the land they have, and also is too close to city. So there is no more room to grow for the current Sydney airport. Hence, building a secondary airport in Western Sydney will be able to help fill the gap in terms of future demand.
I guess that's one of the issues, especially as urban cities grow and they grow into the original airports. Let's shift to now passengers. You've been studying passenger trends. What would you say is a key passenger trend that the aviation industry needs to be focusing on?
Yes, so the passengers are looking for convenience and the service quality from not just flying from A to B. So modern airports now are trying to transform into a place where customers are happy to stay there at the airport and enjoy the environment and also enjoy the activities. So back 20, 30 years ago, airport was a place for people to fly from A to B, and then because they have to spend some time at the airport, so they would try to do some activities. But nowadays, many airports are trying to make it a destination itself. So, for example, you see the Jewel shopping center, the waterfall at Changi Airport, and also the shopping center at Incheon Airport, for example. So they are trying to attract customers and passengers to go there, spend more time over there, and also enjoy the airport as a part of the travel experience.
Right, and as you mentioned, Richard, passenger experience is key to a great airport, and baggage delivery efficiency is a big part of that. Let's check out the latest rankings from Skytrax World Airport Awards 2025 for the world's best airports in baggage delivery. Taking the top spot is Taiwan's Taoyuan International Airport. It was praised for its swift and reliable baggage handling. In second place, Japan's Kansai International Airport. And third is Singapore's Changi Airport, which seems to be featuring everywhere. Bahrain International Airport claims fourth. And rounding up the top five is Tokyo Haneda. So two from Japan there. Richard, your research on airline delays show that airlines and airports have to be ready for the unexpected. So how do hubs like Dubai manage disruptions, and how important is that to keeping the airport as a global aviation hub, or keeping its reputation?
Yes, that is true. For disruptions that always happen, and that makes customer experience pretty poor. However, it really depends on what kind of disruptions we are talking about. So it can be natural events. For example, it can be wind situation, it can be wind, it can be rain, heavy rain, torrential rain, or typhoon. Those activities very much we have very little control over that kind of disruption events. For other disruption events that can be caused by airlines or ground operations. So for that kind of disruptions, then the role of an airport would be to assist airlines to accommodate passengers during the time they spend on the ground in the airport. So that would make a bad experience a little bit less uncomfortable. So in certain ways, airlines are trying to make their passengers more comfortable to provide extra assistance during that disruption. For airports, they do need to provide extra space, because for airports want passengers to come and go quickly, but they also want passengers to stay in the airport for longer, because people tend to spend a little bit more money when they stay in the airport for longer.
Especially with the surcharge prices at the airports. Now, you use big data for airlines, and as an example, let's look at China's Guangzhou Baiyun Airport, which is turning out to be one of the world's busiest and undergoing a massive expansion. How does analytics drive airport expansions and businesses expansion within airports?
Yes. So earlier I mentioned that every airport is slightly different, and they tend to have a certain type of customers in terms of airlines and also in terms of passengers they want to serve. So for example, for airports in the Greater Bay Area, including Guangzhou Baiyun Airport, Guangzhou Baiyun Hong Kong Airport, and also those airports in the area, they have particular catchment of passengers within the area. So use of big data can understand passengers' travel preference, passengers' travel behavior. For example, where do they start? How do they go and connect to the airport? And also, for example, where do they want to go to? And then airports can work with potential airline partners in order to create that connections. So for airports, they want to create connections, more connections, that it will become a bigger hub. And that's very much the definition of a hub. So it's not just about the scale and the size of the airport. It's actually about the destinations a hub airport can connect to in the world, and also how many flights they can a hub airport can offer.
And what do you mean by connections? You're talking about transits, different regions, or actual partnerships with other airports?
Yes. So in terms of connections, it's about destination A connect to destination B through a hub airport. So major hub airports would be able to provide many connections among the destinations through that hub, right? So the more cities, the more destinations you serve, and then there will be more possibility to connect each other through the hub airport. So that is a very important indicator of the definition of a hub airport.
I want to change tack a little bit. For a while there was a lot of talk about going carbon neutral. The whole idea of net zero within airports, the airport industry, flights, and I understand you've explored hydrogen fuel tech. Can you give us a timeline for that, or how far we are away from that, and actually using it for the aviation industry?
Oh yes, it's a huge challenge, but also a huge opportunity. So aviation industry itself is very difficult to carbon neutral because of especially the distance. If, for example, for Australian airlines, if we are trying to fly across the Pacific to the west coast of the US, then given the distance and carbon emission, is very, very hard to make it carbon neutral. So there are generally two potential directions right now. So one is to use biofuel. So those are produced with less emission. So that biofuel will be able to reduce carbon emission. And the other is more ambitious in terms of electrify aircraft and also flights, and also use hydrogen as an energy source. So those two potential energy sources are limited by technology at the moment. So electricity depends on electricity supply, but it's a lot easier to carbon neutral. However, it depends on the battery technology. On the other hand, for example, hydrogen cells, it seems to be more feasible, but in a way that it's difficult to store, difficult to transport, and it also very energy hungry to produce. So Australian government, because there are more green energy sources in Australia, so Australian governments are considering to turn mining into a more hydrogen production ideas in order to export, for example, like liquid gas. So in the future, Australia can export liquid hydrogen to other countries, and then that liquid hydrogen can be used as an energy source, not only for aviation but also for cars, for example.
So I guess for aviation, it's still wait and see. Now, let's bring this back to Taiwan. A lot of Taiwan airports are dual use. Firstly, can you explain to our audience what Taiwan airports have to handle aside from commercial traffic? And does that challenge Taiwan's ability to become a global aviation hub?
Yes, so many airports we have in Taiwan are dual use. So, for example, Songshan Airport has a part of the northern side is actually used by military. Taoyuan Airport also has a part is used as a military base. Tainan Airport, Taichung Airport is actually one of the biggest military airport in Taiwan. So in general, both operations, civilian operations and military operations can usually coexist quite well. It's usually not a big limitation for airport growth. However, it does limit how the route of aircraft taking off and landing, and also in terms of resources sharing, and also space sharing. So it has quite a bit of limitation, but I think so far over the years, it has been handled quite well.
So many more things to consider. And coming back to Taoyuan International Airport, as it opens its new wing, its new terminal, what is the advice you have for Taoyuan International Airport so that it can thrive and establish itself as a global hub?
Yes, so with a new terminal, then the airport will be able to create a better customer experience. So customer experience, especially the role of Taoyuan Airport plays, is more like a regional hub. So in order to become an attractive hub for passengers to connect, then that experience people can have at the airport becomes quite critical. So when especially the traffic Taoyuan connects most is from west coast of the U.S. connecting through Taiwan, go to Southeast Asia. So that traffic would attract people who want to have a cheaper airfare, but spend a little bit time at the airport. So the trade-off between direct flight and spending time at the airport becomes an opportunity for Taoyuan Airport. So with the new terminal opening, I do look forward to a better customer experience, especially for those customers flying longer sectors.